Hi everyone, it's me Cat Muir from Cheap and Easy Eats, and this week we're going to be doing pesto. Hi everyone, this week we're going to be doing pesto, and I really like pesto. It was a request by a really good friend of mine, Jackie McAlpine, and it's not something I use a lot, but I do like pesto every so often. And if you grow basil and you've got basil lying around and you want to use it, then it's perfect for this. So basil's really the star of the show. I'm going to show you the traditional pesto recipe and then how I jazz it up myself. So what you need is roughly about 50 to 60 grams of basil, which I'll show you is quite a good handful. Then we need pine nuts, which is 100 grams. We're going to use a hard Italian parmesan cheese, which is 50 grams, and we're going to use some garlic and olive oil. That's the traditional pesto sauce. What I like to put in it is a little bit of lemon juice, ginger, a little bit of capers and some mint, and that really brings out the flavour of the basil, because that's the real thing about it. And even as I've got the basil here, I can smell it and it just smells so lovely. And the very first time I tasted pesto wasn't that long ago really. I was working on a show, and at lunchtime they had a sandwich that they grilled, and it was mozzarella and pesto, and I thought, oh, you know, I'll give it a go, and it just smelled so like basil, and the flavour was so lovely, and I really enjoyed it. So this is a really quick and easy way to make it. So you just need to have all your ingredients together first, and I think that's probably always the easiest way to go when you're doing anything. You're going to need to have a food processor, a blender, or a mortar and pestle. And the reason you need that is you've got to really get it really blended in. So I'm going to use a food processor. I prefer that purely because it's got like a wider area. I find if I'm using a blender for this, everything kind of gets stuck down the bottom, and I don't feel that it does it as much justice. But if you've got a blender and you don't have a processor, by all means use that. And if you don't have either, you'll need a mortar and pestle. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my pine nuts, and I'm just going to twist them up. Now, you can toast them first of all if you want. I've tried it both ways, and I've found that when I've toasted them, I don't really taste any difference. So it just seems like an extra step that you don't really need. And pine nuts have got such a lovely flavour anyway, and it's very subtle in this. We're going to use salt and pepper as well, because that really brings out the flavour too. So I'm going to do the pine nuts. I'm going to put in a reasonable amount of salt. So it's roughly about a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half of salt at this stage. If you want it saltier, then you can make it saltier, because that's everyone's own taste. Then what we're going to do is I'm just going to put in a little bit of garlic. Now, I'm not really big on garlic, and I think it's years and years of working as a hair and makeup artist, and you're in people's faces and you're breathing on them. So garlic's something that I've always kind of avoided, and I'm still not really big on it. Usually for this amount you would put in a clove to 2 cloves of garlic. So this is a clove, and you might want to put double that in if you like garlic. If you don't like garlic, you can leave it out. It does give a lovely subtle flavour if you just use a tiny amount. So all I'm going to do is use about half of a clove, so not an awful lot. But again, this is something that at the end, if you feel it needs more garlic, or it needs more salt, or it needs more anything, you can put it in and whiz it up. There's nothing wrong with doing that. So I'm just going to peel and put in a tiny little bit, maybe about half a clove. And I find that's enough for me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to whiz this up, and at the end then we'll put in some olive oil. I'm going to whiz this up just now. Now it's at a nice kind of breadcrumby kind of stage. So what I'm going to do just now is I'm going to add in my capers. Now I've got 3 teaspoons of capers here, and I find that that just really gives it a nice kick and a nice flavour. I'm going to add in a little bit of ginger. Now I quite like ginger, and I'm going to add in about a big fat thumb size of ginger. And again, if you want to add more in, you can absolutely add more in. I'm just going to peel it roughly. Now you can grate it if you want to grate it. I never really have time for doing all these kind of things. I'm going to chop it up kind of finely, processor will do the rest of the job. If you're short of time, you can of course just put everything in at once. Now I'm just going to blend that up again. You can see that's went into quite a nice paste now. That smells really nice. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to put in my basil leaves and a little bit of lemon juice. Now I'm not going to put the stalks in because they're quite harsh, so I'm just going to put the leaves in. It's just got such an exquisite smell. So if you find that you've got a leaf that maybe looks a little bit kind of not very pleasant, then just leave it out. Last year I grew gorgeous purple basil. It was so lovely, and it's got such a strong basil smell. It was really fantastic, and it's perfect for pesto, and it's really easy to grow. So if you ever fancy just growing your own, I got the seeds in a wee cheapie shop, and it didn't cost very much at all, and I had endless supplies of purple basil. In fact, I gave it away to lots of my friends last year as well. If you're buying it from the supermarket, you're best to buy it fresh, so you can get it in a little living pot. The packets, you know, they're great, but basil, like all herbs and, you know, all these kind of things, they're alive. And if you cut them fresh, then you're getting the best flavour possible. If you buy it where it's been picked and it's sat in a plastic bag and in the shop and in the heat and people picking it up and having a squash of it and putting it back down, it's not so flavourful, it's not so alive. If you buy it in a little pot where it's still got roots in the ground, it's going to have a whole lot more flavour. And it's definitely worth this extra step. If you put the stalks in, you can taste it, they're just that little bit hard and heavy. So I'm going to put a little bit of mint in too. Again, the same thing, don't put the stalks in, stalks are hard. This was out my garden, it smells gorgeous and fresh. So it's just a few sprigs of mint, not a massive amount. Again, basil's the star of the show. You don't want to overpower it, but it just gives it a really nice light flavour. I'm just going to squeeze some lemon juice in. There we go, that's the juice of half a lemon. And now, I'm going to whisk it up. So all I'm going to do now is just scrape it down a little bit. I'm going to have a little quick taste of it as well, just to see if I need more salt or pepper. And actually, you can probably see some of the leaves still need mashing down a little bit, and that's fine. And I didn't make like a massive amount of it because, you know, we don't use an awful lot of it, but did want to get a little bit. And this is quite a large processor. Now I'm just going to taste just a little bit and just see. That's so tasty. It just needs a tiny little bit of salt. I'm going to put in a little bit of pepper, black peppercorns. And the olive oil I'm going to put in last. So I'm going to grate my cheese. I've got 50 grams and I'm just using a little microblade grater. There we go. Now I'm going to just blend this up. And again, I'm going to scrape it down and have a little taste of it. That is absolutely gorgeous. So now, all I'm going to do is run some oil in it. Now, usually for this amount, I'd probably put a maximum of 150 mils of olive oil. You can of course use a different oil. Scottish rapeseed oil is beautiful just now as well, and also hemp seed oil gives it a really nutty flavour. Sometimes if I've got walnut oil, I'll put that in. Again, it gives it a different flavour. But for this, I'm going to just use extra virgin olive oil. And I just kind of know the amount to put in, but it's about 150 mils maximum. And this just depends on how much you like the oiliness. Now, if you're going to use it on pasta, you'll want it to be a little oilier. If you want to use it on a sandwich like mozzarella, then you might want it sort of this consistency or just a little bit of oil. So again, this is down to your own kind of taste. This is a funky bottle. So I'm just going to start running it. That looks really nice. It still needs a little bit more oil. I'm just going to push it down again, and you can see it just has that look of a traditional pesto. It just smells so nice. Really enjoy it. So I'm going to put another little bit of oil in. Now for me, that's how I like it. If you want to add more oil, more garlic, if you want to put more salt and pepper in, this is the stage you have a taste of it, and then you can put the other things in. For me, this is really how I like it. I don't like too much oil in it, and what I find I do is when I've got some spaghetti, I tend to just put a little bit of olive oil through the spaghetti as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to boil up some spaghetti. I'm going to come back and I'm going to put my pesto sauce on the spaghetti. So I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so we're back, and I've got some spaghetti here. It's linguine because we quite like long flat spaghetti, and all I've done is I've put a little bit of olive oil through it to stop it sticking, and now I'm just going to add the pesto. Now you can see this is the size of jar that we got from the amount that we used, and you would get more if you had the full amount of olive oil. I just don't always like it so oily, but up to 150 mils of olive oil is perfectly fine, and then it gives you a little bit more. So just going to have a little mix of it. And if you want to make it vegan, you can swap out the cheese for nutritional yeast. And then you've still got a lovely cheesy taste, and it's still really delicious. So you can see it just starts to change this lovely colour. And we're working out the cost of it too. It's so economical when you make it yourself, because when you buy pesto out the shops, it's actually really expensive. I was looking at it when I was buying my pine nuts and things, and it's almost £3 for a tiny little jar, which wouldn't even give you like one portion. And when you make it, you can see the size of the jar that we've used, and you can see there's more than half left in here after putting a nice healthy dose on the pasta, and it works out really cheaply. The most expensive cost is the pine nuts, which were about £2 per bag for 100 grams. And the oil, well, you can see I haven't used a lot. Even if you use 150, this oil was about £4 for a litre. So you're only going to use like maybe 80 pence worth of oil or a pound's worth of oil if you use a quarter of it. And the garlic and the ginger are pennies. So all in all, what we were looking at was for about £2.50 you can make about 3 times the quantity of what you would buy. So enough chit chat, I'm going to taste this because it smells gorgeous. It's got such lovely flavours. It's very clean, very sharp tasting. I can still taste the garlic, but the flavour of the basil is very strong, and I can taste the hint of mint. It's absolutely gorgeous. It really is. I'm spinning this for another mouthful actually, but I'll eat it in a minute. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's very, very easy to make. And the capers and the lemon juice and the ginger make all the difference, just to give it that little kick extra. So I hope that you try it, and I hope you enjoy it, and let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks so much. I'm going to eat this for my dinner now. Thank you. Take care. Bye.